If you are tired of wasting money on groceries that just go bad, I am going to teach you how I take inventory of what I have in my house that ends up saving me so much money on groceries. If you're just meeting me, my name is Amy Cross, and this is the Cross Legacy, where I'm normally talking about how to keep produce fresh longer. I am the best-selling author of the Zero Waste Produce Guide, and I've even had a TED Talk about this and have been in the media all around the world. So if you're looking on saving money on groceries and produce is something that you throw away often, make sure to check out this book, and it is available in 27 countries worldwide. There is a discount code just for watching this video that is linked in the description if you're interested in more produce tips and reducing your food waste. We are going to talk about my second favorite tip on saving money on groceries, and that is taking inventory of what you have in your house. So I normally do this a couple different ways and a couple different times of year, and it gets kind of confusing when I'm mentioning it really quickly on videos. So we wanted to put all of my taking inventory tips on one video here. So make sure that you're following along. If you're following along on this playlist, we are giving all kinds of tips of meal planning and how to save money on groceries. And the video that we filmed just previous to this one, which I was still wearing the same shirt even, is the grocery planner video. So in that one, I kind of broke out how I use a grocery planner to put the seasonal meals into the planner and make sure that we are not forgetting about things that are in the freezer. So one time a year, I take a deep dive into everything that we have in the house. I'm normally doing that in that January to February time when things are just a lot slower and we're trying to save money in the new year and have all these new ambitions to want to have things cleaned and organized. It just leads to having an organized pantry as a clean slate for the new year. As I'm going through and doing inventory of everything that I have in my pantry, it makes it easier over the years that I have done this on a Google Doc. So I'm able to quickly see if I have flour and sugar and what different kinds of grains that I have, and I can just check off on a Google Doc whether or not I still have them, if they need to be replenished, if things are nearing to be expired or needing to be used up. When I am taking track of those on a Google Doc for this one time of year inventory, it makes things so much easier. If you want more pantry tips, we just filmed a pantry tour video where I go through, if you have a small pantry or large pantry like I do, how to take inventory and store things in the pantry. So as I'm doing this once yearly big deep dive into what I have, I am going through all of those dried items, our spices to see if I need to restock anything, things like oils to double check and make sure that we have what we need. And then I'm kind of peeking in our freezers, mostly just to see if I need to start making some extra freezer meals during this time that I'll be putting into the oven. So it's just kind of a quick peek at the freezers during the January, February time is when I'm really focusing more on our dry goods and things in the pantry. When I'm doing this pantry inventory too, I'm also like grabbing the 1s and 2 items that are like loose. So right now we had some instant oatmeal that I had like 1 in one box and 2 in another box. I just kind of made an instant oatmeal area so it's all together. Or if I have like a little bit of snacks. So snacks seem like something else that we have, like 2 granola bars or 1 pepperoni stick. I just kind of put those all together also so I can get rid of some of the extra boxes and containers in the pantry, and there is a go-to area, especially when you're trying to tell your family, this is where the snacks are, or this is where some of the breakfast items are. When I am going through and making my inventory, I'm also looking at how much of a quantity I have left. So sometimes I'm looking to see if I have enough for 3 months, 6 months, or a year at a time. And that way I can plan ahead for sales, or if I want to bulk buy something, I'm setting money aside or looking for those better deals. So sometimes I buy things like organic oatmeal off of Amazon that gets delivered to my house. It's a cheaper price to get 25 pounds or 50 pounds at a time instead of a smaller bag at the grocery store. Another thing that I use is as your standard, and I will occasionally get a bulk order from them that is a local delivery that you go and pick up, but they have a lot of great organic items that are affordable. And then 2 times a year, I normally do a really deep dive into our freezers. We have a kitchen freezer, and then in the garage we have a freezer. And then actually as a collab, we ended up with a chest freezer. So we have a couple freezers in the garage, and one that we're currently not using is just in there, and then our kitchen freezer. But the point is, we want to always make sure that we are rotating the items and nothing in there is going bad. Because sometimes your buying habits can remain the same, but your family's eating habits change over time. And a good example of that is I am really good about getting spinach and putting it in the freezer for smoothies. And a couple years ago, I forgot that we weren't making smoothies because I had oral surgery and I couldn't drink from a straw for like 9 months. And we realized we had 9 bags of spinach in the freezer. So I was still in the habit of buying things like I normally did, but we weren't in the habit of eating things. And as your family changes or your preference change, it's a good idea to be taking a deep dive into your freezer and making sure that things are getting rotated and being used up. So I normally do this right as the kids are going back to school, like in September for us after Labor Day. And it's also a good time that we still can have some nice sunny days, that if we have things that would normally go out on the grill, we're in the Seattle area, so we don't barbecue when it's raining. But if things can go out on the grill and being used up in September before we really go into that gray, dark, wet weather starting in October, I'm kind of trying to use up some of those items. So there's things like shrimp or fish that we don't really normally use during the winter time as much. And then hot dog buns seem like that used to be a culprit that we get forgotten about sometimes at the end of summer, and just using up some of those things that would go on the grill. And then I do this again in the spring, kind of towards like spring break time, where we're still kind of in between whether or not we have cold days or if we have warm days, that while we're still having cold days in the spring and I want to turn on the oven, I'm making sure that I'm using up any of those freezer meals that I batch cook that would go into the freezer. So I'm just kind of doing a quick check those 2 times a year and writing down things in my planner that need to be used up, but making sure that we are continuously rotating things in my freezer. If you'd like to see a more detailed video of either a stand-up freezer or a chest freezer and organization for them, we have done videos for those, and we will link those in the description. I know the sound of taking inventory sounds like it is a huge task, and I just really encourage you to start like 1 shelf in your pantry at a time, even if you spread it out over a couple days. As you start writing it in a notebook or putting it on a Google sheet or Excel sheet, I know the sound of taking inventory sounds like it is going to take a really long time and it can be overwhelming. I just encourage you to do it a little bit at a time. If you need to start with 1 shelf in your pantry at a time, and either write it in a notebook, meal planner, or on a Google sheet. And as you do it over time, it gets so much easier. You can see what your spending habits are and what you're actually using up over time, which really helps. But also, I'm going to give you some meal planning tips to be able to use that inventory all year long. So once you have the inventory that you normally have in your house, I kind of mark it off too as items I always have no matter what in the house, and then items that are occasionally in there. So right now we have some random flavored pretzels. That's not something I normally have in my pantry all the time. It's not an essential that I restock. We just happen to have them right now. So it's kind of a good example that I know if we're low on something like flour, that is very important that we restock, and random pretzels, not necessarily. But I take that inventory sheet, and for years I've been using that, putting it into an app or a website called Supercook. And we did a video a couple months back on using the Supercook website, and it was so fun because we did it with the whole content team here, and it was fun to see what items people had in their house and how many recipes that populated. And very soon, I'm also going to be filming another video using ChatGPT to make a meal plan with the inventory you have in the house. So make sure that you're getting your inventory ready so when we post that next video, you will be able to move forward with meal planning on your own. Hit that notification bell so you will get notified when the video comes out. Some of this taking inventory and taking stock of what we have is the way that I was raised on a farm with my parents and my grandparents. And we always brought in things from the harvest, and we were working through the winter time to make sure that we were using those things up and knowing what to plant for the next year and planning ahead. Now, our grandma that some of you guys know because she was in some of our videos and living here with us is actually my husband's grandma. She has been mine for a very long time. But she grew up a lot different than what my grandparents did. So she always joked that she was a city gal, and she grew up during the Great Depression, and she had a different issue with making sure that she had all of the food that she needed in her house. So in her house, she was like a compulsive needing to shop for groceries all the time because she grew up during the Depression and having ration cards. And so at her house, there would be groceries on top of groceries on top of groceries, and nothing was getting rotated out. That kind of having food security but not rotating the items is actually so wasteful. So instead of it bringing her peace of mind that she would have what she needed, there was so much clutter and it being so overwhelming that things were expiring and never being used. So I really encourage you to find the balance between what you need to have in your house and how you can have financial security with peace of mind, and making sure that you're rotating through these items, that you're not wasting money on groceries. The average family in the United States is throwing away 40 to 60% of the food that they buy. And a lot of that is produce waste, but a lot of it is also items that go into our freezer and get forgotten about, and especially our pantry, where we're letting it go stale and just forgetting about it and continually buying more. So all the time I'm getting asked, I have $50 and I need to make it go until payday. Like, can you give me 5 meals I need to make? And the question is wrong. The question is, I have these items in my pantry or my freezer, and what can I do to spread those out or go and buy one item that will help me complete this meal? So we, mostly as Americans, are not looking at the things that we already have in our house and then adding to it to complement those items. We are just going to the grocery store tired and overwhelmed and getting ingredients that we need, and it's not really serving our family well. I really encourage you to take inventory of your food and make sure that you're subscribing to our channel, because we're trying to do a lot more videos this year of meal planning and saving money on groceries, but also doing more recipes this year than ever and teaching you how to batch cook so you don't have to cook dinner every single day.